Here's a simple framework for overcoming depression, anxiety, and feelings of stress and overwhelm. So, if you know me, one thing you know is that I love Jordans. These are one of my favorite pairs of shoes, and one can say it's my favorite not because I only love Jordan and basketball and sports and things like that, but obviously they're a very stylish pair of shoes. And growing up, that was something that I couldn't afford. So now that I can afford it, it's great to kind of reward myself every now and again by getting a pair of Jordans. Now, whenever I buy a pair of Jordans, I love buying the retros, the ones that I seen Jordan himself wear. And right now, one of my favorites is the Bread 11s, which I don't have just yet, but I will get them. And then also the Bread 6s, which I do have. When the Bread 6s came out about maybe 2-3 years ago, and I bought them, I felt amazing. I felt like I was on cloud nine, if you will. And that's the feeling of Jordans. And that's also a shout out to why branding is so important and how branding can be so strong. It's like when you buy something, the feeling you get once you purchase it. But that's for another day. So when I bought those Jordans, the next day I went out and I was wearing them and I noticed something. I started to notice everybody else is wearing the same pair of shoes. And I'm like, yo, what happened? I thought these were exclusives. And they are. If you know about getting on the Nike app and the sneaker app and buying Jordans and these exclusive shoes, there's a limited pair of them. So when you're able to buy them, great. And if you can't, you can obviously buy them from resellers who typically charge a higher fee for them. Now, when I bought those shoes, and as I said, I started to see them every so often, they stood out to me. And the reason why is because that shoe was on the top of my mind because I just bought them. And I want to ask you something. Has that ever happened to you where you bought a new pair of shoes, a car, a shirt, a sweater, like whatever it is, a purse, and once you bought it, you couldn't help but notice it every time you went out? For me, I have a Chevy Malibu, and when I bought that car, I couldn't help but notice not only the white Chevy Malibus, which is the one that I own, but all Chevy Malibus. One could even say Chevy, so even the Impalas as well. I was noticing those too. And the reason why is because all of our minds have this bias, and it's called the confirmation bias. So the confirmation bias works like this. Your mind will go out and it will intentionally find and seek all the information that supports a previous thought that you've already had. So if you had a thought of Jordans, you're going to notice every time you see a pair of Jordans. If you had the previous thought of a certain car, you're going to see it every time you step out. That's just how the mind works. And this is something that helps or even hurts when it comes to depression, anxiety, feelings of overwhelmness, and even stress. The questions and the thoughts that you have on your mind is going to be able to, it's going to filter out certain information whenever it comes into your mind, into your experience. And I'll give you an example. Whenever you're going through a tough time, if you already have the thought that I'm not good enough, you're going to notice all the evidence that's going to support that thought. And you're going to start to ask yourself poor questions. And this is the simple framework that I want to get you. I want you to start to ask yourself helpful questions that's going to lead you to helpful answers. Because if you ask yourself lousy questions, guess what you're going to get? Lousy answers. I'll give you an example. If you ask yourself, why am I always coming up short? Why am I so lazy? Why am I not good enough? You're going to find evidence that's going to support those answers, and it's going to further cement this belief in your mind. Now, if you ask yourself better questions like, how can I make this happen for me? How can I become better at public speaking? How can I create a podcast that people are going to listen to? You're going to start to find information because your mind is now looking for the information to support the thought that you have. Now, that is the key. I want you guys to start to identify what questions do I find myself asking myself on a regular basis? And are these questions helpful for the life that I'm trying to build? Because if you're asking yourself, man, I can't just catch a break, or things like this always happens to me, you're going to find yourself finding all the evidence that's going to support this belief, these ideas, and you're going to start to feel hopeless and lose that sense of agency. And sense of agency is the feeling we get when we feel that we can control and dictate things in our life. So if you're going through something at this moment, just to ask yourself a better question. A question like this: how can I overcome this problem by next week? How can I start to improve one step, 1%? How do I get a little bit better with the current circumstances that I'm having? Start to ask yourself those, and you will find the answers because you're simply looking for them. Just like when I bought those Jordans, I was looking, even if I didn't know it, I was looking for other people that was wearing those Jordans as well. So the confirmation bias is something that can get in your way. I want you guys to remember that and just simply start to ask other questions and find evidence that contradicts some of the unhelpful things that you're thinking at this moment. This is Coach Wells. Thank you for checking out this podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to it as well. Later.